All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of RV Rental Secrets Podcast. I'm your co-host today. We got Ben, the cool coffee cup Kiser, on here with us. Ben, you're new to the show, so or maybe you did one episode with Stacy, but I always like to come up with a fun nickname right off the bat. So go ahead and hold that coffee cup back up, will you? There, I couldn't. Is that a bunch of like fly lures or what is it?
That's a killer whale, and this came from Washington State, Bellingham.
Awesome. Okay, nice coffee cup. I'm a coffee cup connoisseur. I've got a couple of them up at the restaurant there in the window, so I love coffee cups. And then with Stacy, the amazing mother Maxon. Stacy's just got into soccer season, so she's full-time entrepreneurial mom, full-time soccer mom. Stacy, do you have a soccer sticker on your vehicle that says soccer mom?
No, I do not.
You don't. Okay.
No.
Well,
In my defense, I did just buy a new car a few months ago, so I haven't had the opportunity, but
oh, did you? Is it a soccer van?
no, I don't. We have three kids, so I don't have to upgrade to the van. I'm good with the car.
Yeah, you don't need a van. You're right. Okay, cool. Well, hey, we were actually just on in our, what do we call it? Our Thursday meeting. Stacy, Ben, and I were all partners on Fireside, so we called the Thursday Tribe meeting, and we were talking about just doing hard things. We were talking about doing the work, and I thought, you know what? Let's talk about doing the work today as our podcast episode. So let's talk about doing the work. If you are a follower of this podcast, I'm going to automatically assume that you're an entrepreneur because this podcast is to those that are renting out their RVs. And I've said this many times before. If you didn't know this yet, if you are renting out your RV, guess what? You're in business. You have a business. Most people that start renting their RV, they think, well, we're going to do it just to make some money on the side, cover some payments, this and that, which is great and true, but that means that you started a business. So when it comes to starting a business, there's things you didn't think about, right? Dealing with grumpy renters or repairing campers or figuring out your books, stuff like that. And that's all part of just doing the work. So that's what we're going to talk about today, doing the work. Ben, what you got to say about doing the work?
Ooh, that sounds rough, Gar. Yeah, I was going to kind of go through some of my process that I currently do here at my branch in Gulf Shores. I wanted Stacy to poke holes in it because she's a good consultant.
That's true. She is. Yeah. Okay. So you want to talk about like your day to day of what you do at your Gulf Shores location of the work that you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. So if, the current process that I have, Fireside sending the RV, that's your first step, getting your 10 RVs. So I'm asking this to more or less Stacy. What I currently do is once they're on RV Share Outdoorsy and the Fireside website and my personal website, renters are finding me online. I'm not doing any marketing. So these renters are finding me. Once they inquire, Fireside Plus sends them the quote. They're going back and forth answering the renter's questions. Once that quote is confirmed, then I get an email saying, hey, Ben, you got a book reservation. Ben can then get on Whip Around and assign a driver and a cleaner. If declined, assign a different driver and a different cleaner. I have a bullpen. So that driver knows to go pick up that out of the storage lot, that RV, and set it up. At the end of it, the cleaner cleans it. When they're done cleaning, then it gets dropped back off in storage, rinse and repeat. If I get a phone call that the AC's out, I simply call my RV tech and I say, go to site 151, please fix the AC, bill me, I pay it, I take it out of the consignment owner's cut. Rinse and repeat.
You make that sound way too easy.
He does. Hey, just so everybody knows, Ben is a franchisee as well. So he's an equity owner in Fireside. He's a franchisee, and he also does our franchisee sales calls. Okay, so um, yeah, so Ben does make it sound easy. We were actually just talking about this in our last meeting. Ben, you can't make it sound so easy because that first year you got to do the work, and because we've had a couple of franchisees lately who are like, oh, I'm a little discouraged, this or that, whatever the scenario it is. and it just comes down to doing the work. And I love what Myron Golden says, all work works. And then he goes on to say it either works for you or it works on you. So you can take an action and get a result. Like Ben just explained an action result, but Ben didn't just step into action result. He built that over time. But before Ben got that action result, the work that he was doing was working on him. Right, Ben? Because I remember the calls I get from you like, oh my gosh, I got this with my partner and that, and I'm out here delivering a camper right now, and I wasn't planning on doing that. I should be at home wrestling my boys. So the work was working on Ben, and we talked about this several podcasts ago. Is what was the saying I came up with? Hard times equal hard lines. When we do something enough that is painful to us, eventually that causes us to make a change. And we're either going to change as far as we're just going to walk away, we're going to quit, or we're going to make a change like, hey, I need to figure out a good solution. And I don't want to see anybody walk away and quit. I want to see you push into the pain of the moment and say, okay, I don't like this. How can I figure it out to where I don't have to be in this situation again, or I situation the least, amount of times as possible. What do you say about that, Stacy?
Yeah, I think like really finding your why, like why did you decide to do this to begin with? When we had our location, we had on average 20 units. My husband and I were working in the business full time, and there were a lot of stressful moments. There were times where we thought about quitting, but when we thought about why we wanted a business to begin with and why we started doing it, it was so that we could, lead a different lifestyle where we had time freedom and could spend more time with our kids. So I mean, we were a seasonal location, so we really only had, 5 months out of the year that were crazy. And then we worked really hard during those 5 months and then had the rest of the year where we could travel, homeschool our kids. And that was our why, so that we could show up for them. So, really think about and even write it down what your why is and why you're doing that. And that helps get you through those hard times of when you're doing all of the work.
Yeah, that's really good. You've got to know the why of why you're doing it. So if you're just renting your single RV and the why is because you want to help offset some payments to where it doesn't cost you much to own it, well, then extend your nightly minimum and only take one rental a month, or whatever, because you can easily create yourself a job when you didn't want one. Here was the original why of why you wanted to do it. Or if you're like us, faith-filled entrepreneurs, and you want to not have a 9 to 5 or a corporate job or employer telling you when you can't work and how much you can make and all those things, and you want to live life on your terms, then you got to know, hey, I've got to put in the work to get to that. And like Ben was just sharing, Ben has put in the work to get to that moment, and so now he gets to enjoy the fruits of that. But in the meantime, it just made me think what Myron Golden says. In the meantime and in between time, I love Myron Golden. If y'all don't know who Myron Golden is, check him out on YouTube. Phenomenal faith-filled entrepreneur. In the meantime, in between time, you got to do the work. And work is not enjoyable sometimes, right? There can be stress, sweat, all the things involved. But like Stacy said, have that why in front of you. So why I'm going to do this right now. And then that will keep you hopeful and motivated and encouraged. Because one of the things that we've learned in the Fireside family is, we're a group of Christian entrepreneurs doing life together. And a lot of people find us through one of our ads or YouTube or whatever it is. And they're like, man, these are my people. I want to do life with them. And that excites them. And then they sign up to start a Fireside franchise. And then they realize, oh man, now it's time to do the work. There's that lonely part of in the day-to-day where you're just doing the work, right? If one of your first goals is to build your fleet, you're reaching out to 50 or 100 RV owners a day. That is not fun. I mean, if it is fun to you, then you're a little weird, but it's just not fun to do that, right? But it's part of doing the work. So we just want to encourage you guys today. Like Stacy said, have your why. Like Ben said, hey, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can get everything in place to where you can enjoy the fruits of that labor. But in the meantime, you're doing the labor, you're doing the hard part.
It's good stuff. And I think too, like you can, from the early days when I first started, it's easy. It is kind of like I can find, we overcomplicate a common question that gets brought up is how do you find drivers? You know, how do you have a bullpen of drivers? I can find, go into Stacy's, you know, comment about around soccer practice. I can go to soccer practice, my kids' games, and I can find 2 drivers. You just got to put yourself out there. So I'll see somebody pull in with a truck and I'll probably know that person. There's a good chance you know that person, especially if your kid plays ball with them, and just ask them, say, hey man, you know, do you ever have any interest of doing this? And another misconception is, hey Ben, that's more money out of pocket. We charge the renter for delivery. So then I kind of figure out what that guy charges or what he would want to do that delivery, and that's what I charge in the delivery fee that the renter actually pays. So don't get in your own way. That's the number one problem I see in this industry is people getting their own way. They're not, you know, getting their 10 units first. They're not actually talking and networking with the community and finding those drivers. I can find 4 or 5 cleaners at church. I can find 5 drivers at my kid's ball game. Like, just don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I know the other day when we did our fireside chat with our franchisees, we had one location, she had 16 units going out to an event, and she mentioned how she was paying a cleaner more than she would normally pay, but she said how it helped her so much to have that load off of her mind, knowing that it was being done correctly, where she used to pay a different cleaner less money, but they didn't do as good of a job. You know, so once you find that person, make sure that, you know, you're compensating them well so that they stick with you. But know that once you find that person too, that allows you to focus on so many other parts of the business that are going to bring in more money. So don't be afraid to pay that person to do the work.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta learn where and when to outsource, and know that that time is going to free you up to do other money making activities. It's so easy, you know, like the old book, The E-Myth. It's so easy to get stuck on one portion of the business thinking that's going to be where you're going to make your money, where it's really, you got to look at all facets of the business and see where is your time best spent. So awesome, y'all. We're going to call that a wrap for this episode because I have a meeting in like 6 more minutes. So we're going to call that a wrap. That was fun talking about. Just want to encourage y'all, do the work. Let me see if I can find a post-it here in front of me to share something encouraging about work. Proverbs 14:23, in all labor there is profit. So kind of like back to Uncle Myron, all work works. Don't ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels doing something. So say you're doing something, you feel like, oh my gosh, this is frustrating. I'm spinning my wheels. I feel like I'm getting nowhere. Stop, realize that in all labor there is profit, and get curious and say, okay, what am I learning in this moment? And oh, what I'm learning is I hate cleaning campers. I'm going to hire someone to do it for me. Or what I'm learning is these Friday to Sunday rentals suck the life out of me and pull me away from my family. I'm going to start doing a longer minimum to where it's not going to be dropped off on Friday and picked up on a Sunday. So just remember, in all labor, there's profit. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling painful in the moment, there is a lesson to be learned there. So press into that pain, get curious, and see what the lesson is. So thanks, y'all, for coming on to another episode of RV Rental Secrets Podcast. We'll see y'all on the next.